I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. His girlfriend Karen Reed has been charged with his murder, and like most domestic murder trials, to understand what happened, you need to understand the relationship. Here's the story. Karen Reed and Boston police officer John O'Keefe shared a complex and sometimes tumultuous relationship. In the days leading up to O'Keefe's death in January of 2022, their text messages revealed escalating tensions. But on Friday, January 28, 2022, they met up at a bar in downtown Canton, Massachusetts, and everything seemed fine. They displayed some affection, and a friend of John's who was there said everything seemed normal. After drinking at C.F. McCarthy's in the Waterfall, Karen then dropped John off at a party hosted by fellow officer Brian Albert. The next morning, she found him unresponsive in the snow outside of that house. Prosecutors allege that Karen Reed, under the influence, struck John O'Keefe with her SUV and left the scene. The defense contends that John was injured inside the house and that Karen Reed is being framed. The case has garnered significant public attention, with supporters rallying for Reed's innocence and critics scrutinizing the investigation's integrity. The retrial continues to unfold, shedding light on the complexities of their relationship and the events leading to John O'Keefe's death. This is a murder case. It's a murder case. It's a boyfriend, it's a girlfriend. So from my perspective, like I would do in any other trial that I'm covering here at Court TV when we're talking about a boyfriend and girlfriend, a husband, a wife, is delve into the relationship. And they've done that inside the courtroom because there are a lot of communications on the day that John O'Keefe died, beginning in the morning and going throughout the day into the night when they finally got together at C.F. McCarthy's bar. So what we've done here is we've taken the text messages and we have, we're going to read them to you. You'll hear two different voices, a female voice, a male voice of our producers, reading the communications back and forth all day. And we're going to do it all hour long. We're going to go through each of these communications. Let's begin. And you're going to hear in the text messages, they're talking about they and them. That reference by John O'Keefe is his niece and nephew, the children that he is raising. So let's now take a listen.
You have really hurt me this time.
I'm sorry. This has been an issue with me for 8 years. It physically hurts me to see everyone else in their life do things for them, and I'm forced to always be the bad guy.
I'm not the same as everyone else. Most of the time, I try to do what is healthy, smart for them. More importantly, I try to support you and what you need. You just lashed out at me and said terrible things. I don't know how you've gone to this point with me when I'm just trying my hardest. You made your point and continued to beat me down. I have a lot going on too. Physically, I'm falling apart and trying to get answers and help. I am just your girlfriend. I am not a perfect parent. I'm trying very hard and sometimes treat them nothing like I used to.
I know. I'm sorry for lashing out. I'm just hurting and struggle daily with them. Always feel like I'm failing at this parenting thing. I wasn't built for this.
Kaylee isn't perfect, but everything wonderful about her is because of you.
Emoji.
It's true. I know she's her mother's daughter, but she wouldn't be so bright and successful if she lived with anyone else. Wow, Christian just sent 2 back-to-back messages. Do not lose your faith in those kids or in yourself.
2 emojis.
No, life can pick you up sometimes. Please be happy with them and put away your frustrations for the rest of the day. And be so proud of yourself, JJ.
That's what bothers me more than anything. Should have sent Peg's or Sarah's W-2s. They're all equal guardians.
Maybe you can call someone.
Like who? What time are you coming here? Emoji.
I don't know what time. Feel kind of out of it. Just trying to clear my head.
Okay.
Text me when you guys settle in later.
Sure.
I feel pretty about how this morning went down. I know you said sorry, but it really stung. Especially when I've been trying pretty hard lately. I feel like a loser turning around, just coming back over after everything you said.
Not sure what else you want me to do. I said I'm sorry, and I was out of line. If you prefer to stay home, I totally get it.
Things in my own life have been difficult too, you know.
I know.
Phone call. At 2:17 p.m., the defendant calls John. They talk for 2 minutes and 22 seconds. At 2:23 p.m., the defendant calls John. They talk for a minute and 2 seconds. At 2:24 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
Tell me if you're interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this.
Nope, things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? Kids are here, not in the mood to talk.
So you're not into it anymore? That's fine. But I don't want to keep trying and you keep treating me like this. I'm trying to hug and kiss you this morning and you whack me in the face with a pillow. Last night you're basically like, yeah, what about it? When we talk about the future. So why don't you just admit you're not into it so much anymore?
Not how it went down, but okay.
Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us?
Sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you, apparently.
Phone call. At 2:32 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
OMG, stop calling.
Then why would you start with me this morning? You're setting me up to fail. You start a number of fights from your end.
I've explained it a few times already. Not doing it again.
So you're not into this anymore?
Not into fighting all the time. Correct.
If you tell me you're interested in someone else, you will never hear from me again. You can have all the space in the world.
Eye roll emoji.
Then stop starting with me.
Phone call. At 2:34 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
I'm not answering. Stop calling.
Can you please answer after how you treated me earlier?
Phone call. 2:34 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
Kaylee is right here.
You start a rager with me out of nowhere and then tell me you're sick of fighting with me? I'm going to grab a drink in a bit.
Phone call. At 2:38 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
Can you please answer?
No, Karen. Not sure why you need to announce that you're grabbing a drink, but have fun.
Seeing if you want to meet me later. Can you please call me?
Have to take them to the doctor. He has practice.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Phone call. At 2:43 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 2:43 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's rejected.
My father just walked in.
Okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes?
Not right now.
I'm there when anyone else needs me.
Phone call. At 2:45 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected.
Yes, John, you gave me utter grief this morning. I'd like you to call me for a minute. I've been trying to get over the hump with this arguing, and now you tell me you're not into things, and you don't want to fight weekly, but fly off the handle at 8 a.m. with me, like you're setting me up to fail. I've been dealing with my own personal crisis over things I have zero control over. I'd like to lean on you, too, sometimes. Instead, I just hear everything I've done wrong.
Phone call. At 2:50 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. At 2:51 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. At 2:52 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is not answered. At 2:53 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is not answered.
You seriously cannot pick up the phone for 2 seconds?
Phone call. At 2:58 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. At 2:59 p.m., John calls the defendant. The two speak for 4 minutes and 59 seconds.
That's an intense morning of communications back and forth, which brings us to the first question in our investigation. And it's about what happened that morning. How serious was the fight that morning? Right? Something happens at home and then they're talking about it and then they seem to be disagreeing, going back and forth in their communications. Here with us, Karen Reed supporter. She's Nurse Kim on YouTube and TikTok. Kim Whalen is back with us, and forensic psychologist Dr. John Delatorre. Thank you to both of you. All right, Kim, I'll begin with you. How serious do you believe that fight was that morning?
Yeah, well, we know that it was about the Dunkin' Donuts, and I think that it really did affect Karen, this fight. And you can see that, Vinnie, in the communication. It's that she wants to get to the bottom of this and really have a talk with Officer John O'Keefe, and he appears to be shutting down, not wanting to even go over or take any accountability for maybe throwing a pillow in someone's face and lashing out regarding spoiling the children.
So, Dr. John Delatorre, the intensity seemed to pick up in the communications, but obviously something happened in the morning. How serious do you believe this was in what was happening between Karen and John that morning?
I think that depends on who we're talking about. And I can certainly see how, from Karen's perspective, that whatever happened that morning was definitely more serious than maybe John was, really looking at. Maybe he thought that the apology was all that he needed to say and was willing to move on. And the communication between the two really does seem to be somewhat manipulative, somewhat standoffish, somewhat combative. And it really does seem like Karen is wanting to have a conversation to talk this out, and John is not wanting that. He's trying to find other ways of trying to get out of this thing. So I think the severity of that initial fight really depends on the perspective with whom we're seeing these now text messages and missed and rejected phone calls.
Kim, what are you seeing from Karen? Let's focus on her at this moment, because she's the one on trial. She's the one who allegedly committed a murder of the man that she's communicating with. Are you seeing or hearing anger from her? Do you see what exactly? How would you gauge the emotion? What are you taking away from these communications?
Hurt. I'm feeling a hurt, a deep hurt, and just trying to get to a point where she is working actively, Vinnie, to try to accommodate John, to try to accommodate the family and the kids. And at every turn, she appears to feel a rejection of sorts, or that she's being, as she said herself, set up to fail. And you just have to empathize in that situation of this relationship began in a pandemic. They were together all the time, and Karen came in seamlessly to help with the children, to help take a load off of John's shoulders. And I think she was just doing the best that she could to navigate that while we were dealing with also a global pandemic.
Let me ask you, Dr. John Del Toro, how would you describe the emotion that you're hearing from Karen Reed that day in these communications?
Yeah, my experience of that interaction certainly includes, hurt. I can certainly see that there's a level of hurt associated with it. But again, there's something underneath there. I think that there's probably a little bit more expectation on Karen's part in this interaction. I think she expects John to be something that he's probably not capable of being, and he doesn't know how to say that. It certainly comes across as if he doesn't know how to extricate himself from this thing, and Karen is really feeling that separation and doing everything she can to kind of bring him back, which again pushes him away even further. My experience of all of this is that it's a chase, right? She's trying to chase him. John's trying to get out of this thing, and the two just cannot communicate about what's actually going on within the two of them emotionally.
Okay, our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, does John want to be with Karen that night?
They just spent the last half a day establishing that John and Karen had the most absolutely normal relationship on the planet.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury.
They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict?
You know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
They just spent the last half a day establishing that John and Karen had the most absolutely normal relationship on the planet. Show me someone who hasn't had normal ups and downs and fights and makeups and breakups and get back togethers and, all the normal stuff. Certainly nothing that establishes or even suggests a murderous intent, which is what they have to show.
I know you can't say much, Karen, but is there anything that you can say about your relationship?
It was normal. Love you, Karen.
And you loved him, I'm sure.
I didn't. We were dating. We were dating.
what was the status of that relationship? Well, you know, normal can mean different things to different people, but now this relationship is under a microscope. And one of the ways that the jury is understanding this relationship is the direct communications between Karen Read and John O'Keefe. We're going to listen to some more of the text messages being read. Again, this is the day that John O'Keefe died. This is his last day, his last communications with Karen Read. Let's take a listen.
Why don't you meet me at the hillside at 4:30, 5 o'clock?
Eye roll emoji.
Or whenever you get everyone settled.
Like I said, doctor now, and he has practice till 6. If you want to go start drinking, then go for it.
I didn't know the times of his practice. I just want to give you some space at the house without me there. So rather meet you out than meet at the house.
Yeah? Well, now there's a 72-year-old taking up shop on my couch.
Yeah, that too. Is he going to Collins?
Not tonight.
So do you plan on going out tonight?
Karen, I don't know. You're like jonesing to drink, so go.
Okay, well, after how this morning went down, I don't think I need to be back over there. With you get frustrated at how I am with the kids has nothing to do with drinking. I'm paranoid now that everything I do with them is problematic. So rather see you for a minute without the kids around.
What's your plan?
Don't have one.
So, still home?
Yes.
We just got home, waiting to see what Papa decides here, or else I have to get Patrick at 6.
Okay.
So are you staying home or coming here?
Waiting to see what you end up doing. I don't want to hang out at the house too much, like I said. I think it's clear me around with the kids around is slowly killing our relationship. And our relationship is much more important to me.
Well, there's a blizzard coming, so we'll be inside all weekend.
It'll be over by noon tomorrow.
Don't think so.
I don't want to keep having this constant conflict of the dynamic of the four of us. The harder I try, the more it kills our relationship as a couple. It feels like utter to be in this position, rather than just meet you out for drinks when you figure out what your night looks like.
Well, I have no idea what's going on, so do what you want. Need to figure out what everyone here is doing. All I know is Madeline is coming over. No clue about Patrick yet, or if Papa is planning on hanging out for a few more hours.
Okay, well, when you know the story and you want me to come up, let me know.
No, Karen. You decide what you want to do.
I know your heart isn't in this anymore. I felt it for a while, and especially lately. I'm willing to try more, but not if you are approaching the point of indifference. If you want me to come up and you can head out for a while, then say so when you know what your father is doing.
You come up and I head out? Really? Eye roll emoji. I've told you already. I don't bounce back as quickly as you do after we have a battle.
No, head out together, eye roll emoji, or meet out.
So here they are, sort of, kind of making plans on what's going to happen that night. It's a Friday night. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does John want to be with Karen that night? Does he even want to get together with her? What are we taking away from these communications? Still with us, Kim Whalen and Dr. John Delatorre. All right, Kim, what are you hearing there? Does John want to be with Karen that night, whether it's at home, whether it's at, out at one of the local bars?
Yeah, Vinny, I think he does. He is just stubborn. He is a typical Irish cop, and that is basically giving her the option that you can come over, you make the decision, but at the end of the day, he wants her there, and she is feeling the stress just about the relationship and the dynamic that is caused when you do have children. And she is trying to get him to give her a response and say, Karen, I want you to come over. I would love you to be here. And he's just not going to give her that, unfortunately.
Okay, Dr. John Delatorre, what are you hearing here? Do you think that John wants to be with Karen that night? Does he want some space? What do you think's going on here?
I do think that he wants to be with her. This is a weird kind of dynamic where he can tell that she is putting more effort into this relationship than he really is. Now, obviously, he's got a lot of other stuff that's going on, but I think he wants her only on his terms. And so that's why he's kind of deflecting a lot of these other kinds of issues. I think he doesn't like her to be so clingy. And when she gets clingy, he tries to push her off. But ultimately, I do think that he is somewhat invested in this relationship. I think she's way more invested in this relationship than her whole "we're just dating" line. But I think ultimately he does want to have something go right in this relationship.
And Kim, the other thing that I hear from Karen on this end is she always seems to go back to the bigger picture of the relationship, like where are we? And even when you're talking about, okay, where are we going tonight? Are we going out? Am I going over? And then it always comes back to, we need to talk about the whole relationship.
Yes, I think so too. I think that's absolutely correct. And I think that it is something, Vinny, that just speaks a little bit deeper about, do you want to be in the long haul of this with me, John? And she's looking for those answers because it's not visible for her to see and for her to find. And she's looking for any kind of validation from him, I believe. And unfortunately, it's just very difficult to pull from John.
And Dr. Del Toro, we have about 30 seconds left here. The other thing that makes this relationship very, very complicated is that John is raising his sister's children who've been through incredible tragedy. So he's got to, it seems to me, he's got to put even more into that, because he took on something that is difficult, extremely difficult, and he does not want to let those kids down.
And unexpected, right? Again, this wasn't like these were kids from a prior relationship. I mean, yes, they are his family, but this is something that he was not gearing up for. This was not something that he had been planning his entire life around having these kids in his life. So there's a lot more weighted pressure than I don't think he was capable of coping really well. And Karen is caught in the crossfire of this.
Big thank you, Kim Whalen, Nurse Kim on TikTok, on YouTube. We appreciate it. Dr. John Del Toro, your insight, amazing. Thank you so much. Up next, what impact did John's family have on their relationship? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. The allegations are that his girlfriend Karen Reed ran him over. She's been charged with murder, and now the jury has to figure out what was going on in their relationship. Here's the story. John O'Keefe, a respected Boston police officer, was found lifeless in a snowbank outside a fellow officer's home in the early hours of a bitter January morning in 2022. But what began as a tragic death soon spiraled into one of the most controversial and sensational cases in recent memory. John O'Keefe and Karen Reed's relationship was passionate, but troubled, filled with love, tension, and growing suspicion. In the days before his death, their text messages showed emotional distance and some rising conflict. Prosecutors allege Reed struck John O'Keefe with her SUV and left him to die. But Karen Reed maintains she's being framed, pointing fingers at law enforcement and accusing them of a cover-up. Their once private love story has now become a public battleground, one where loyalty, justice, and truth now hang in the balance as the courtroom spotlight intensifies. Murder trial. This is a murder trial. Do not forget that. Yeah, it's an unusual murder weapon, a vehicle, an SUV that's been alleged here, but it's a murder trial between a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So during this hour, we've been taking a much closer look at the relationship and doing it directly by taking a look and a listen to the text messages and the communications between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed in that final day. Let's go back in and listen to those text messages and get more insight into what was on their minds, what they were talking about, where the conflict was, and what was going on in their relationship.
Gonna send Patrick to Collins tonight. They're picking him up around 7. Mike may hang out too when he brings Mad over. So why don't you just come over?
Mike doesn't want to go out for a bit? I would like to. Been a day from the jump.
Probably. I just got sober an hour ago.
I'll let you hang with Mike for a few. Don't need to butt in. Text me when you think you may head out. Can you send me Tim Zoll's contact info, please?
I paid the last bill.
You didn't have to do that. Thanks. Are you really not going to accept my friend request?
Eye roll emoji. On what? Facebook?
Yeah, we've been going out for 2 years.
I haven't gone on. You defriended me over a year ago, I believe.
Carrie texted me. They're headed out in a bit.
Okay.
She's going to let me know where.
So you're going to meet them?
Just presenting it as an option. Wouldn't mind hanging out with them for a drink. Is Mike over?
Yes.
Sounds you're like good with getting together tonight. Was hoping after this morning you'd be interested in smoothing things over with me.
Told you to come over, but you insisted on meeting me out somewhere.
Mike is a little off with me for a while now. I've said that multiple times.
Time to get over it, Karen. He's fine. He was fine the other night when he came by.
Yeah, just wouldn't mind hanging out with other people, like another female, too.
Where are you meeting them?
I don't have plans with them. She just said they're headed out in a bit and will text me when they land somewhere. If you want to go out with Mike solo, that's fine. Just let me know.
I already told you what you should do. Not gonna keep doing this.
I asked to let me know if you guys are going to head out. I haven't been out for drinks this week, and I had a week and a day. And I dread Kaylee or Pat is going to get chatty with me the second I walk in, and that's going to irritate you.
Pat is leaving. Kay is with Mad Cam. I'll text Chris then. We're heading out shortly. What's your plan, Karen?
Do you want me to join or no?
Yes. Wasn't sure if you were meeting the Currans.
They're not out drinking yet. Where are you headed?
Trying to decide. Maybe McCarthy's.
Okay then, let me know where you decide. I'm still down in Emfield.
Text me when you leave. Still waiting on McKinney's.
I'm having issues with my hot water, so I had to text someone to take a look.
Eye roll emoji. You trying to piss me off? Hope your plumber buddy that you texted is hot.
Nope. My shower only got lukewarm, and now my sink won't run at all. The plumber I used to use is right down the road. I turned that temp thing in the basement all the way up.
Check the water heater and see if it's leaking.
It's not.
Don't do that. Is the pilot lit?
I was trying to get my shower hot. Yes.
Don't turn it all the way up. It will burn out.
I had this issue twice before, and it wasn't a disaster. I just can't remember what the cause was.
Just turn it back to where it was and get over here.
I don't want to come home in a blizzard and then really be up creek.
So you're going home tonight?
Or tomorrow, or whenever. I've had it chill all day since my shower.
It's going to snow all day tomorrow. No driving.
So there's a lot going on in these communications. Everything from the hot water heater to the weather that's coming in, the storm that's coming in, but also some talk about the family and Karen's relationship. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. What impact did John's family have on their relationship? And when you talk about John's family, it's the children he's raising, it's his parents, his brother, everyone. How did that impact the relationship between John and Karen? Here with us, attorney Melanie Little on YouTube. Melanie Little is here, has been covering the story from the beginning and knows every fact inside and out. Clinical and forensic neuropsychologist, expert in conducting forensic evaluations, and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho is here as well. All right, Melanie, let's talk about this.
All right.
What impact did John's family have on the relationship? And we can start with the children. We can start with his parents.
Let's start with the children.
I think we should start with the children.
Let's. First of all, parenting is hard enough, right? Being a single parent is even harder. And John found himself in his late 30s, he'd never been married, as now a new parent to his niece and nephew after his sister and brother-in-law tragically passed away. So he's raising 2 children by himself. He gets into this relationship with Karen, and Karen winds up being the fun parent, for lack of a better term. She spoils them. She buys them expensive clothing. She takes the niece for manicures. She buys her Dunkin' Donuts coffee in the morning. And John doesn't like that because he doesn't want them to be spoiled. And you can see in the text message thread that you just read that Karen said, look, I don't want to come to the house because I'm afraid if I come to the house, the kids are going to be all chatty with me and you're going to get mad because you feel like you're not the fun parent. And so I think it's difficult enough to parent. Co-parenting with someone that you're not married to and you're not both the natural parents of those children is even harder. So just add that into the whole other host of issues that they had, and it's difficult. You can see that.
Yeah, so Dr. Judy Ho, so what impact do you think this has on this relationship between John and Karen? Because this is the relationship that this jury has to figure out.
Well, Vinny, as Melanie already said, parenting is already difficult enough, and they seem to have a very extraordinary parenting situation that they're trying to manage. That's one major stressor. There are other stressors as well. It seems like there's just a lack of trust, even in some of the text messages that were just read, like, what's the hidden intention? They're constantly trying to read each other. And then also there's times when they both seem irritated with the other. Looks like there might be some jealousy or not believing what the other person is saying is really what's happening, or who is this person and why are they around and who are you going to call and do you think they're sexy and hot? And then the rest of the time, the text messages almost seemed like they were a bit devoid of emotion. So not a lot of pleasantries, right? Sometimes people will have little cutesy names for one another. They didn't really refer to each other that way. It was kind of very all business and intersected with these sort of irritated texts, accusing one another of something, but not fully coming out and saying it. And so I think that it just seems like there's a lot of underlying tension that neither of them are really talking about.
And how about the rest of the family, Melanie? What's the impression you're getting about the rest of John's family who had been through an enormous, before John died, an enormous tragedy in the loss of their daughter, their sister, and the brother-in-law, the son-in-law. What was that relationship between Karen and John being together, and how John's family is reacting to all of that?
Well, I feel like it may not be reflected in these messages specifically, but we learn through certain witnesses that testified at trial that John was really doing this by himself and that he really wanted his family to help him with the children. And Karen, I think, complained to one of her friends when they were out that night that, they really didn't get enough alone time. They didn't get vacations alone because perhaps nobody in the family was really helping him with the children. And that's a huge burden. And I think you can see from John's mother's testimony that there was no love lost between Karen and John's mom, but I know that Karen was very close to John's dad. They went to church together every Sunday, and they were very close. So I think Karen had different relationships with each member of his family, and we're going to see more about that as the testimony continues.
Yeah, Dr. Judy Ho, so when the relationship begins, I mean, everyone knows what's going on, right? John is raising these children. He had been raising them for quite some time when Karen and John reconnect after years ago knowing each other. If you go into a relationship like that, are there unrealistic expectations sometimes on how it's all going to work out and how tough it really, really can be?
Definitely. I think that I've seen in the couples that I work with that sometimes there's complaints of, well, because children are in the picture, I'm never going to be your number one. And of course, this is mostly applying to blended families where they enter the picture and they have children from a previous relationship or that was previously established in the household. I could imagine, though, that maybe when first entering the relationship, Karen saw this as such a noble thing that John was doing and wanted to be part of it in a positive way. But parenting is one of the most amazing experiences for people, as well as presenting as one of the most major stressors, because this is where your underlying values start to be on display. And if there is any kind of disagreement, it feels so personal to each person involved, like you're just shaming them or you don't like the way that they decide. It becomes more of a critique about that person rather than, hey, we're just trying to do our best for these children and maybe we have different ideas. People tend to take it extremely personally and have a different narrative about it, especially if they've had any past stressors or traumas related to parenting or within their own childhood.
And one thing that is evident when you listen to the entire day is that there is some friction, some big picture friction about where they are in this relationship. Melanie and Dr. Judy Ho are going to stay with us. When we come back, why are they even together?
No, you're dodging the question, David. You're dodging the question.
I'm not here to be interviewed. You've agreed to be interviewed. You told the police you shot him twice in the head. It sounds like you lost control of yourself.
Not at all. No, not at all. I could have killed everybody in that building, and I didn't.
You think you should get some kind of credit for not killing people?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do.
That's Brian Albert, the owner of the home that was having the after party. It was his front yard where John O'Keefe was found dead, and he's cleared. He's saying John O'Keefe never came inside the house. Obviously, the defense has a different version of what happened. So what I'm focusing on, and we have been throughout this program, are the communications between John and Karen, trying to get a little more insight into their relationship and what exactly was happening that day and what was on their minds that day and where they were emotionally. So let's go and listen to more of the text messages between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe.
We're headed to McCarthy's.
Okay, let me know if you end up leaving.
Why? Now you're not coming?
I'm waiting for the plumber. I actually think he's in the driveway.
We're taking Mike's car, so I'm relying on you for a ride home if he leaves.
He's not going home after?
8 o'clock on a Friday, wink emoji. He may have to get Michael. You have a plumber coming over at 8 o'clock, knowing me and Papa could have handled it. Good luck.
I have always told you, I will not put either of you out of your way the way everyone else in your life does. I knew it wasn't working right when you were at the doctor's with Kaylee, and I knew neither of you could get here. And this guy, Richie, fixed it last time, whenever it was. He was supposed to be here at 5. If it's not a quick fix, I'll tell him to forget it.
If you need a new water heater, don't let him do it.
He's here now. If it's not quick, I'm not doing it. I just want to be sure nothing is wrong, will go wrong when I'm not home. He's not a scammer. Half the quick stuff he does doesn't even charge me for. He just puts the toilet seats on crooked.
Status?
Still here. Eye roll emoji. Said he's got to go to HD and probably be back mañana.
So?
Shoulder shrug emoji. Just trying to figure out if I need to be here.
What does it need?
I don't know. He showed me some piece that was all rusted. Shoulder shrug emoji. I don't understand half this stuff.
On the water heater?
Yes.
Tell him to leave it. I'll take care of it Sunday or Monday.
No, it's okay. I can either meet him here or just shut off the alarm. He used to work here while I was at work.
Does he realize it will be whiteout conditions tomorrow a.m.?
Yeah, but he lives right down the road.
Karen, this storm is going to be intense. Can't drive.
Okay, well, if can't, he can't.
I'll do it Monday.
Ha, I better not still have this problem on Monday.
You plan on being there?
I'd to know I can take a hot shower here if I need to.
Figured you'd be in Canton till Monday. I'm getting off my phone. Let me know what you're doing.
I think the 4 of us together is toxic to this relationship. Would like to limit it. You've said so yourself for probably a year now.
Blizzard tomorrow. Nobody is going anywhere.
Maybe I'll come back late tonight. Bad snow is in the early a.m. I'll head up there in a few minutes. Let me know if you leave.
Eye roll emoji. Sure.
I'm listening to this, right? They're talking about a hot water heater, the weather, and then the 4 of us are toxic. Like all in the same conversation, which brings me to the next question in our investigation. This is a big, big, big picture question about the relationship. Why are they even together? Why is that? Still with us, Melanie Little and Dr. Judy Ho. Melanie, what are your thoughts on that? Why are they even together, these two, at this point?
You know, relationships are hard, right? I mean, it's hard to look at one day of text messages between two people and, you know, talk about their relationship.
But they do spend a lot of time. They go from, you know, the moment to the big picture. You know, just
Yeah.
right there. Hot water heater, the four of us together are toxic.
I feel like he's being very passive aggressive in these text messages. They've got the 3 key ingredients in the recipe for relationship disaster, right? Communicating by text messages, Facebook, which I don't even think we saw the message about Facebook and him not wanting to friend her on Facebook, and then you've got alcohol. Add those 3 things to the mix, and it's a disaster for the relationship. But I think that she really loved him. Listen, she was a professional woman. She worked in finance. She had her own money. She owned her own home. She didn't need to be with a man for money or security or for financial reasons. So I think she really loved him. And I really don't think that this was anything that would have led to murder, which is what the Commonwealth wants the jury to believe. I think this is a normal, everyday, push me, pull you type relationship. I think he's being avoidant. She wants to work out the problems. That's why she keeps calling him. And he keeps rejecting her calls, which makes her angrier and angrier. Ask any woman who's ever had her phone calls rejected instead of picked up. And I think you're going to get the same answer. There's 9 women on the jury. They're going to be able to see what's going on here.
Dr. Judy Ho, what do you see going on here? Why are these two together? Do they love each other, do you think? Do you think there's something there is something there, and this is sort of the normal ebbs and flows of trying to work through the problems and the complexities of the relationship?
Well, Vinny, I think there's probably love and probably looking at their past with rose-colored glasses. Like, maybe it's going to get better. We were so much better before. And actually, in this series of text messages, Vinny, I actually see him trying to reach out to her more and her rejecting him in a way like, look, I'll have this other guy fix it. I don't want to wait till Monday for you, essentially, even though he basically volunteered and said, no, just call that guy off. I will take care of it. Well, now how come you're not committing? They're both being non-committal in these series of text messages that we've been looking at these last 2 segments. And I think that there's probably some trepidation about showing your hand, truly professing your love and having the other person reject it. But here he is trying to be some form of a provider. And she's basically saying, I don't need you. I don't need you. And then instead of giving him a straight answer about whether or not she's going to show up and meet him, she goes right to, well, we're toxic, which of course, I think if he's reading this correctly, he's thinking, okay, so it's not really about the plumber or what you have to deal with. It's that you don't really want to be with us in our family unit in the way that, you know, my social situation is at the current time. And that's a form of rejection too. But I do think that there's probably love. I think that there was hope that things are going to change for the better. And I also think that they're pretty attached to each other. And there may be some fears of, well, what next if we break up?
We have about 20 seconds left here, Melanie Little. I'll give you the final word because, as you mentioned, this is a murder case, and prosecutors have to take this relationship and sort of paint a picture for the jury that it's potential that it goes from wherever it is to murder.
Right. And I think as the case goes on, because we're going to keep continuing to talk about this, we're going to hear her voicemail messages as they go on into the night, and she starts ramping up and ramping up. And this is a great prelude to that, because we can see now that she's already mad. He's rejecting her calls. He's begging her now to come out, right? Come on, what time are you going to get here? Come down here. He gets jealous about the plumber. He says, I hope your plumber's hot, which interestingly enough, when we get to Brian Higgins' text messages with Karen, she says, you're hot. Did he know about Higgins?
Wow.
No question.
We're out of time. Big thank you, Melanie Little, Dr. Judy Ho. Thank you so much. Relationships can be complicated. John and Karen's was very complicated. That's because of where they were in life. They're no longer in their 20s, and John was raising his sister's children and living as a single parent. Karen was then in sort of a strange position, in a relationship with John, but sort of an undefined role with the children. It can certainly cause friction, but was it enough for murder? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.